They eat pizza for breakfast, dessert after every meal, late night snacks without a second thought. And somehow they stay exactly the same size. No gym, no restrictions, no consequences. You've watched them do it your entire life. That friend, that sibling, that coworker who eats twice what you do and never gains a pound. And while everyone else is calculating calories and avoiding carbs, they're living in what feels like a completely different biological reality. But here's the truth. Being able to eat massive amounts without gaining weight isn't just luck. It's about psychology, genetics, unconscious compensation behaviors, and metabolic advantages most people never see. Today, we're breaking down the psychology and science of people who eat everything and never gain weight, and why your body doesn't work the same way. Let's start with the most obvious difference. Some people's bodies just burn hotter. This is called basal metabolic rate, or BMR. It's the number of calories your body burns just to keep you alive. Breathing, pumping blood, maintaining body temperature. For most people, this accounts for 60 to 70% of daily calorie expenditure. But metabolic rates can vary wildly. Research from the New England Journal of Medicine shows that two people of the same height, weight, and activity level can have metabolic rates that differ by 20 to 30%. That's 300 to 500 calories burned per day without lifting a finger. So when you and your friend eat the same meal, their body might be burning an extra bagel's worth of calories just sitting still. But there's another factor most people miss, that is adaptive thermogenesis. This is your body's ability to increase calorie burn in response to overeating. When some people consume excess calories, their metabolism speeds up automatically. Their body temperature rises slightly. They feel warmer, more energized, and more fidgety. Studies show that people with high adaptive thermogenesis can burn up to 15% more calories after a large meal compared to people with low adaptive thermogenesis. Their bodies essentially waste the extra energy as heat instead of storing it as fat. Your body might not have that setting. When you overeat, your metabolism doesn't speed up to compensate. It just stores the surplus. You both ate the same pizza, but their body treated it like fuel to burn off, while yours treated it like fuel to save. Here's where the psychology gets interesting. People who eat a lot without gaining weight are almost always high-movement people. This isn't about going to the gym. This is about something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. It's all the unconscious movement you do throughout the day. Tapping your foot, pacing while talking, gesturing with your hands, shifting positions constantly. And the difference between high NEAT and low NEAT people is staggering. Research from the Mayo Clinic found that NEAT can vary by up to 2,000 calories per day between individuals. 2,000 calories? That's an entire day's worth of food for some people. So when you're sitting next to someone who eats constantly but stays thin, watch them closely. They're probably not sitting still. They're bouncing their leg, adjusting their posture, standing up and sitting down, walking while they talk on the phone, taking stairs instead of elevators without even thinking about it. They're burning calories constantly through micro movements you don't even notice, and that they don't notice either. And here's the psychological piece. These people are often naturally restless. They feel uncomfortable sitting still for long periods. They have what psychologists call high baseline activation. Their nervous system runs at a higher idle speed, which translates into constant motion. You, on the other hand, might be naturally low NEAT. You can sit comfortably for hours. You prefer stillness. Your body doesn't have that internal motor pushing you to move constantly. So even when you eat the same amount, you're burning hundreds fewer calories through daily movement. Here's something people who eat a lot without gaining weight do that they're completely unaware of. They compensate. If they eat a massive dinner, they're genuinely not hungry for breakfast the next morning. If they binge at a party, they'll naturally eat lighter for the next day or two. Their appetite self-regulates over time without any conscious effort. This is called caloric compensation, and it's automatic for them. Their bodies track energy intake over days and weeks, not meal by meal. So yes, you watched them demolish an entire pizza last night. But what you didn't see is that they skipped lunch the next day because they just weren't hungry. Or they ate a light salad for dinner because nothing heavy sounded appealing. Their weekly calorie intake evens out naturally. Meanwhile, your body might not have this built-in regulator. A big meal doesn't decrease your appetite the next day. You're still hungry at your regular meal times regardless of how much you ate yesterday. So your surplus just keeps accumulating. Research on eating behavior shows that naturally weight-stable people have much stronger satiety responses than people who gain weight easily. Their leptin, the fullness hormone, works efficiently. When they've eaten enough, their brain gets a loud, clear signal to stop. And that signal lasts. They stay satisfied for hours. For people who struggle with weight, leptin signaling is often weaker or delayed. You can eat a full meal and still feel hungry an hour later. Your brain didn't get the memo that you're done. So you keep eating, not because you lack discipline, but because your body never told you to stop. Let's dig deeper into hunger signals, because this is where the real difference lives. People who eat a lot without gaining weight have what's called high satiety sensitivity. When they're full, continuing to eat becomes physically uncomfortable or even nauseating. It's not willpower stopping them, it's biology. Their stomach sends a strong stop eating signal, and their brain listens immediately. They can leave food on their plate without thinking twice because their body is screaming that they're done. You, on the other hand, might have low satiety sensitivity. Fullness for you is a subtle signal that's easy to override. You can keep eating past fullness without much discomfort, especially if the food tastes good or if you're eating for emotional reasons. Studies show that people with high satiety sensitivity consume 30 to 40% fewer calories per meal than people with low satiety sensitivity, even when both groups have access to the same foods. There's also something called hedonic hunger, the desire to eat for pleasure rather than physical need. For some people, this drive is weak. Once they're physically full, food stops being appealing. They don't fantasize about dessert. They don't keep snacking just because it tastes good. But for others, hedonic hunger is strong. Even when you're full, your brain is still interested in food. You're thinking about what's next, what's in the kitchen, whether there's room for dessert. Your eating isn't driven purely by physical hunger. It's driven by the psychological reward of eating. Now let's talk about genetics, because some of this really is written in your DNA. There's a gene called FTO, the so-called obesity gene, that affects how your body regulates hunger and stores fat. People with certain variants of this gene are significantly more likely to overeat and gain weight, even when eating the same foods as someone without those variants. There are also genes that control brown fat, a special type of fat tissue that burns calories to generate heat. Babies have lots of it. Most adults lose it. But some people retain higher levels of active brown fat into adulthood, giving them a built-in calorie-burning system that never shuts off. Research shows that people with high brown fat activity can burn an extra 200 to 300 calories per day doing absolutely nothing. That's the difference between maintaining weight and slowly gaining 15 to 20 pounds per year. Then there's gut microbiome. The bacteria in your digestive system affect how many calories you extract from food. Some people have bacterial profiles that extract fewer calories from the same meal. They eat a 1,000-calorie burger, but their body only absorbs 800 calories. The rest passes through. You might have a microbiome that's highly efficient at extracting every available calorie. Same burger, but your body absorbs 950 calories. Over time, that difference compounds. Finally, there's a psychological layer that's easy to overlook. People who can eat without gaining weight don't think about food the way you do. They're not mentally tracking what they ate. They're not feeling guilty after meals. They're not planning their next eating opportunity. Food just doesn't occupy the same mental real estate. This is called food neutrality, and it creates a feedback loop. Because they're not anxious about food, they're not stress eating. Because they're not stressed, their cortisol levels stay low. And because cortisol promotes fat storage, especially around the midsection, they avoid an entire biochemical pathway that leads to weight gain. Meanwhile, if you're constantly worried about your weight, counting calories, feeling guilty about eating, you're living in a state of chronic low-level stress. That stress raises cortisol. Cortisol increases appetite and promotes fat storage. So the very act of worrying about gaining weight can make gaining weight more likely. These naturally weight-stable people also have unconscious movement responses to overeating. When they consume excess calories, they become more fidgety, more restless, more likely to pace or move around. Their bodies respond to surplus energy by burning it off through activity. Your body might do the opposite. When you overeat, you feel sluggish, tired, more likely to sit still. So instead of burning off the excess, you compound it with inactivity. So if you're not one of these people, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means your metabolism runs cooler. Your anxiety is lower. Your satiety signals are quieter. Your body stores more efficiently and compensates less automatically. And your psychological relationship with food carries stress that theirs doesn't. The person who eats everything and stays thin isn't more disciplined than you. They're playing a completely different biological game with different rules you never chose. Thanks for watching Food and Psychology. Subscribe for more on why you eat the way you do.